Mike Mentzer. Oh man, the comments might drown me after this. I'm gonna go over 6 points, 3 being still relevant to this day and 3 being out of date. I'll start off with the first 3 that are still relevant to this day. Mike Mentzer advocated for intense, brief, and infrequent training sessions. The rationale is that high intensity, defined as lifting weights close to maximum and going to failure, maximizes muscle stimulation. And I'll say this method is actually very effective because it triggers significant muscle fiber recruitment and hormonal responses that are conducive to muscle growth, aligning with the principle that muscle growth is stimulated by intensity, not just volume. Still relevant point number 2. Mentzer emphasized the need for ample recovery, arguing that muscles grow during rest and not when you actually train them in the gym. He would say that a lot of athletes and bodybuilders back in the day would overtrain and neglect recovery, and recovery, as he stated, is actually very important and just as important as lifting weights when you go into the gym. Still relevant point number 3. Mentzer would argue that the quality of the set was much more important than the actual quantity. So then if you do like 5 sets and 3 of those are really good and the last 2 are crap, you might as well just say you did 3 sets. By focusing on performing each exercise with maximum effort and proper form, individuals can achieve greater muscle stimulus, which is actually true. I even see it in my own workouts, because in the past I used to work out with improper form. I would, for example, do a bicep curl and I would swing my body a lot to get the curl up. As I was doing that, I wasn't really targeting the bicep because I would use the momentum for my body to get the bicep or to get the dumbbell up. But what I did is I went lower with the weight and I decided to keep my body still, and I focused on my bicep and I focused on the form to make sure that my body wasn't moving and only my bicep was curling. What I noticed was an immediate increase in muscle stimulation. The burn was out of this world and my bicep got bigger over time, and I kept doing that method. Sure, I went lighter at the beginning, but I built the weight back up, and then lo and behold, I could curl more than what I was doing with the body. Whatever this thing was, what I was doing, I don't know. Now I'm going to mention 3 out-of-date things that he emphasized and believed in back in the day that are no longer true to this day. We'll start with the first one. 1 set to failure. Mentzer's advocacy for performing 1 set to failure per exercise as sufficient for muscle growth is now seen as too restrictive. While effective for beginners, most people require more than just 1 set to continue making progress. This is because additional sets provide more muscle fiber activation and stimulate more growth over time. Outdated point number 2, lack of emphasis on periodization. Mentzer's method primarily focused on maintaining high intensity at all times without significant variation in workout. Mentzer's method primarily focused on maximum intensity at all times without significant variation in workout, volume, and intensity. When in reality, it's actually essential to have periodization in your training because it prevents overtraining, which ironically was one of Mentzer's concerns back in the day with all these bodybuilders that were supposedly overtrained. But when you have a lack of periodization, then you'll overtrain. Eventually, you'll get to that point at least. You'll also avoid plateaus and enhance long-term progress. And the third and final thing that is out of date is Mentzer's overemphasis on heavy weights. Mentzer's focus on always lifting heavy may not accommodate the full spectrum of muscle development. Varied rep ranges and lighter weights can also be beneficial, allowing for focus on muscle endurance, reducing the risk of injury, and targeting different muscle fibers. This variety is crucial for comprehensive fitness and long-term progress.